Afternoon. Coming off an exciting victory against a very good Temple team. Didn't get back into South Bend until late, but certainly worth it given the ramifications of the game. Each and every week is a playoff game for us, and to get a victory on the road against the top 25 team is certainly a very good win for our guys. Went back to work yesterday in preparing for a very good Pitt team. A team that, as you all know here, has played us extremely well and beat us the last time out. So we know what's in store for us in playing Pitt at Pitt. Led by, Pat Narduzzi, who is, I think we all know, has done such a great job in building his career as defensive coordinator, now as a head coach. You can see the same kind of signature defense, physical offense, aggressive special teams, and has gotten his football team off to a very good 6-2 start. Jim Chaney on offense comes over from Arkansas, ball control, physical, play action, does a very good job of controlling, the line of scrimmage. Obviously, guys like Boyd and Peterman are the guys on offense that we have to concern ourselves. Boyd can do so many different things. But just like, last week, another tough game on the road where we're going to have to play for 4 quarters. Our guys have that unique ability to really bear down and play for 4 quarters, overcome things, and find a way to win. So, again, I think more than anything else, our guys know what's in front of them. It's a noon start, which is a little bit different for us, so we'll have to make some appropriate changes in our schedule. But we certainly believe that there won't be any excuses for the kind of play that we'll need against a very good Pitt team. So that will open it up to questions.
Coach, you're fond of saying that October is for pretenders, November for contenders. Last year at this time, 7-1, ranked number 8, same as you are right now. What do you see in this team that gives you confidence that you'll be able to contend better than you did last year?
Well, each year, different personalities, different leadership. It's a different group all along the board, and I think the schedule's a little bit different. We had to go out to the West Coast twice, to Arizona State and to USC. Then we had a Big Ten team in Northwestern and Louisville. Had a very tough schedule. And didn't play quite as well, obviously. But, this team is a different group, different personalities, a little bit different offensively in terms of what we're doing as well. So, last year is probably more of a learning experience that we have going into this November than it probably is more than anything else.
One of the stats you're not doing too well is red zone efficiency.
Yeah.
Especially with turnovers. What do you try to do in these last 4 weeks to improve that?
Well, it's certainly a number that we're aware of, that we have to really clean up the turnovers and converting, field goals into touchdowns. So, our offense is what it is, and we just have to be more efficient down there and spend extra time in practice and making sure that when we get into those areas, we convert them into touchdowns. And it's been the case a couple of times on the road that it's really been an issue for us. Virginia, obviously, and of course against Temple. Both those games we had opportunities to really lay some points on our opposition and didn't do it. So we'll take some extra time this week. We've done some more self-scouting and study in terms of play calling and what we're doing down there. But I think at the end of the day, execution from everybody, a heightened awareness of where we are, and then a little bit more extra practice time.
And 3 of the past 4 games have been very close, gone down
Yep.
to the late. With the committee looking, is something you talk to the team about, these next 4 games, or at least 3 of them will be heavily favored, that you have to try to impress at all, or do you just go about it as we just try to win and don't worry about style points?
Yeah, we actually looked at it the other way. The last 4 teams that we played, 3 were undefeated when we went into the game, and 1 was our natural rival in USC. I think they had a combined record of 25-6 right now. I don't know that many teams have had that kind of record, an opposition's record, in the last 4 games. So what I told them is that they've been really tested. Their mettle has been tested over the last 4 weeks, and let's use that to our advantage in the way we play. Don't worry about, the score, and you can't control those things. What you can control is the last month you've been tested against very good football teams, 3 of them undefeated and 1 of them being USC. And that should bode well as we work through the month of November.
Can you just talk a little bit about Deshaun, where he is now compared to Everett in 2012? Do you feel more comfortable with the ball in his hand, the game in his hands at this point?
Oh, absolutely. The confidence, I think, more than anything else, is probably the big difference between the two. Everett was a great athlete, could do a lot of things, strong arm, but the makeup of the quarterback position in itself, I think, leadership, command, I think I'd have to give the nod to Deshaun at this point. Yep.
Brian, to your left. You mentioned the kind of the playoff atmosphere that's been here since Clemson, and I think media is really all over that, and it seems fans are too, not that that's your concern. But what would you say is your best game to date, that the team has played its best, or 1 or 2 games where you really thought that we did a great job today?
Probably the opener. I thought that was probably our most complete game, because I look at it as a head coach in terms of all 3 units playing together at the same time. I think there's some times where, offensively we've been dynamic, and then defensively, I think for 3.5 quarters we played as well against Georgia Tech as any time we've played at all. So I think complete game, Texas, and then I'd have to probably lean towards segments of games that we played really well. Second half against Clemson defensively, last quarter against USC offensively. So, you're picking different times. That's why we think our best football is still ahead of us.
And that's what my follow-up was going to be is, I'm sure Texas is a long time ago, and USC and Clemson are better than Texas. Do you kind of look at those segments where Clemson's certainly one of the best teams in the country. USC is, as you said, an arch rival, a very good team. Do you kind of try to build upon those, and is that what you think is a bit of the ceiling for this team, and that is good enough?
Yeah, and I'll go back to what I talked to the team about. I think we've been tested the last 4 weeks, 3 undefeated teams, and USC, really strengthens your football team in terms of all phases of the game, and I think we're going to be better for it going into November. It was a very strong schedule. Those are good football teams that we had to play. And I think we'll be better for it going into November. Yeah.
Brian, over here. Curious, when you play a team like Temple that's so good schematically against the run and really tough front 7, how would you grade your offensive line and C.J. Procise against that defense?
Well, I'll start with C.J. I think it was a great learning experience for him. I think, the development of a first-year running back, there are different things that he's going to see, and I think the one thing he saw is that, not every play can be a 30-yard gain. 3 yards, 4 yards sometimes is a good play. Putting your head down, being physical, I think is what he learned in this game. I thought it was a great learning tool for him as to how to run in terms of certain plays are going to be not as clean as others, and you've got to make something happen at the point of attack by lowering your shoulder and showing some physicality. So I think he learned a lot. I think from an offensive line standpoint, we didn't give up a sack against one of the better teams in the country that really gets after the quarterback, and I thought that was a great thing that we did. I think from a running standpoint, I think we learned some things in terms of assignments and what we can do better, and probably learned some things just how they play aggressively against our looks that are going to help our offensive line schemes moving forward.
Last year, when you had the targeting that carried over to the next game with Niles,
Yeah.
it was at a position where you were kind of thin with injuries. It seems like safety,
Yeah.
you're kind of in the same. First of all, Is there any scenario in which you would say, okay, McKelty, sorry, the redshirt year's kind of over. We want you ready to play in this game, and we may use you?
It would have to be a dire need situation. It would have to be an emergency situation where, we lost Nick Baratti. Nick will be the next man up for us, and he'll have to play in that kind of scenario for us. So, I think that's Nico Fertitta will get some work back there. He's been getting plenty of work. He's already played this year, so Nico would be the next guy that we would look towards getting through the first half of the game until Elijah comes back in the second half.
And there was an incredible story in the Indianapolis Star about John Turner's situation. I wondered if you could kind of address it and what you're looking, if you're giving him another week off or what the situation is with him.
Yeah, I think, we talked about it as a team yesterday, and John's mom, as many probably know, lost her battle to breast cancer, and John was, given time off to be with his family. A very courageous battle. I think Greg Doyle had a nice piece in the Indianapolis paper about the family, and it was very touching, and it really affected some of our players. So we gave them some time, some of the players in particular that were affected about the loss of John's mom, and touched a lot of players here in the program.
Deshaun, I think, had 17 carries in the game against, again, physical Temple team.
Yeah.
Wondered how he came out of it, and as you kind of go through the stretch where you're playing Pitt physical, Boston College physical, is there any thought that if you have to use your quarterback a lot to run, that you may sneak Wimbush in there for a series or two?
I think we gave it some thought. It's been a discussion that, is there a time and place that we can use him in some of the run game scenarios that we have? So it's certainly not out of the question, and we're going to continue to work with him that if in fact that we feel like there's a need to run the quarterback more, especially those kinds of defenses that are really playing a lot of man coverage, that we would get him ready for that.
Right here to your left, on the 79-yard run by Deshaun Kaiser, Chris Brown threw a key block. Could you assess how he has played as a blocker and your receivers as a whole?
I think I mentioned this earlier. I don't think that there's been a more dedicated and hard-working player at the wide receiver position than Chris. All those guys work hard, but Chris has always been that leader. He took that kind of leadership role this summer, blocking, doing all the little things, and obviously catching a lot of balls. I think he was our leading receiver on Saturday night. But he just is he's a tough, gritty, competitive kid, and he sets a standard for the way all those younger players are looking at what their role is as a wide receiver. It's not just catching the football. I think by and large, all of those guys are committed to being more than just a one-dimensional player, and that is just running and catching. They know how important it is. I think Torrey Hunter's 41-yard run late in the third quarter was an indication of Amir Carlisle out there blocking and Will Fuller blocking on the perimeter. I think that those things, when you throw perimeter passes and you get big gains, I think that's an indication of what the receivers are doing relative to blocking.
Getting back to the red zone offense, and C.J. Prosise is, more of a breakaway back. He doesn't have a lot of experience as a power back between the tackles. I wondered, I'm sure in practice you've given the younger backs an opportunity maybe to earn a role in that. Have you looked at that? Is that a consideration? Certainly Josh Adams has some playing experience.
So a lot of these questions are good questions that, we throw them around just like you do to me today on Sunday when we get together as a staff. Hey, should we get Josh a little bit more carries? Big physical kid in the red zone, And so all of those things are, things that we're going through as well. You watch the game, you guys are pretty smart, and so we're thinking about the same things relative to how can we get better in that area, and is it a Josh Adams? Is it, somebody that is it the tight end and getting him the ball? It's all of those things, and I think those are all possibilities, but as we broke it down, we're having issues that are not just one person. You know, it's like it's the right tackle, then it's the guard, then it's the quarterback, it's the receiver. We have to play better as a unit first, and then maybe feature some more guys in there that can help us be better down there.
Can you live with your 6'4", 230-pound quarterback being your short yardage guy for the rest of the year?
It's, you know, they seem to like that in Charlotte. You know, they think it's okay there. So I think in certain situations we're okay with it, but you know, I think we have to be more than one-dimensional with him.
Did you or do you have an opinion about your quarterback flapping his arms after a couple touchdowns?
Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. It's not what we're about. It's not who we are. Deshaun understands that. The backstory is he's an Eagles fan, and he was mimicking a lot of the Eagles fans and the Eagles players, and that's what they did. It was, but it's not who we are as a team or as a program, and it won't happen again.
So at the end of the broadcast, it appeared that the Temple head coach was engaging Cole Luke in conversation, or vice versa. I don't really know. And there was an incident in the third quarter when Jalen Smith made an open field tackle on their quarterback kind of in front of their bench, where it looked like, again, the head coach was engaging in conversation with one of your players. Is this on your radar? Is this anything that you're aware of, or am I wrong on this?
I'm going to talk to Cole about it today. I saw it last night at dinner for the first time. We replayed the game, and we had it on at dinner last night, and I saw I don't watch the game, but it was on, and I saw Cole having a conversation with Coach, and so I'll address that today with Cole as to what that conversation. As to Jalen's conversation with him, I did not see it. But our players know how to handle themselves relative to, you know, their actions got to speak loud on the field, not off to other coaches or players.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, I was wondering if you were asked back in August if you would be a 2-point loss away from being undefeated, considering the number of starters you've lost, what your response would have been?
I would have been upset. I would have been upset. If we had a 2-point loss, you know, and you would probably be thinking about all the what ifs and the couldas and the shouldas, you know. I think that's probably would have been my first reaction. Like, if it's a 2-point loss, then how could I have helped that been better, you know, been a better outcome?
And kind of piggybacking off of Tom's earlier question, last year the bulk of the injuries started to happen around this time, kind of later in the season, and this year it's kind of been August and early September. I was wondering, does the timing of the injuries matter at all? Do you think it helps to have the injuries happen maybe in the preseason so those guys who haven't played as much can kind of find their rhythm?
Boy, I mean, I'd rather not have them at all, obviously. But, you know, we've kind of, you know, managed through them and developed the players now that have stepped in. You know, if you start having injuries late in the year, it's a lot more difficult, I would think, to get your guys ready. You know, we've been able to work together and get these guys, you know, put into a very good position relative to where they are right now. To start having injuries late in the year would be very difficult.
And then the last one on the injury front, I was wondering if you think your 2012 team could have withstood the number of injuries to starters that this team has.
We weren't very deep. We're much deeper in terms of the number of players that we have. We're further along as a football program, and consequently, that's why we've been able to sustain the success that we've had because of the depth that we have here in 15 versus 2012.
Thanks.
Sure.
Brian, Pat Narduzzi is a first-year head coach, but you've gone against him and seen him many times as a coordinator. I'm just curious how you kind of characterize the way his units play, what makes them good, and what have you, without giving away the game plan, how do you attack that?
It's aggressive. You know, it's an aggressive defense, and they force you to do things that you're not comfortable doing, and they're going to be stout against the run, and they're going to force you to, you know, you can't rely on ball control, spacing throws. You've got to push the ball vertically down the field, which are lower percentage completion opportunities. And he's very stingy against the run. So, he's looking at all of those percentages that offenses won't be effective enough and patient enough to, turn those into enough points.
Is that patience something that you think Kaiser has at this point? I would imagine with a younger I would imagine that grows as a quarterback does.
I think so. We'll have to do a very good job this week, and he'll have to exhibit, some of that patience this week, because if you try to do some things that are not within the game plan, he's going to get you behind the sticks quickly, and then he gets into his 3-down package, and you don't know where it's coming from. Very confusing, and it can confuse a young quarterback. So it'll be very important that he stays disciplined early on, especially in 1st and 2nd down.
The playoff rankings come out tonight, and no one else's opinion will matter after that. But I'm curious right now how you view your team's resume through 8 games.
I think, like I said, I think our last 4 games have been as good as anybody that's played in the country. And I don't know where it stands up exactly. I just know that we've played a very good schedule in the month of October, and we have to win more games, but I'll stand up our schedule to anybody else right now. We still have a loss, so that obviously counts. But it's really for us, what's in front of us and what we have to do each and every week.
Daniel Cage played the bulk of snaps, it seems, at the nose position on Saturday. Is that more a testament to his progress, or has maybe Jerry Tillery hit a freshman wall at this point of the season? Because Daniel seemed to be very effective, too.
No, I wouldn't attribute it to Jerry hitting the wall as much as Daniel's an explosive player, been battling a little bit of a foot injury, been feeling much better, and I think this was his kind of game. A physical run game. It really fit the kind of game that we wanted him to play versus an option team, per se, where we had a couple of option games in there over the last 6 weeks. So I think that's where we saw Jerry play really well against the 2 option teams. And then USC is a more dynamic, fast pace, and I think this game really fits Daniel. He's very physical at the point of attack. He's got first step quickness, can really control the line of scrimmage. So it was a good fit for him, and these next few games will be a really good fit for him as well.
That's what I was going to get
Yeah.
into, is that the identity of the next opponents also
I would say that he fits that, and Jerry does, obviously very good things for us as well. I think we've got, a 1-2 punch there will continue to be effective for us.
In your career here, the stat was pointed out, you have 13 games here where your team came back to win in the 4th quarter there. Some people would attribute that, on the positive side, the glass half full, as it's full of heart and resilience. Others would say they just don't quite have the ability to put teams away or play to the level of competition. How do you view it?
Well, I think winning football games requires character, requires guys that believe. So regardless of whether you were supposed to win the game or not, it's still to win college football games. And again, given the competition that we play, we're not playing 1AA opponents. We're not playing anybody but FBS schools. It says that we've got guys that have character and resolve and believe they're going to win. That's a good trait to have.
And just going back to the offensive line and kind of the red zone theme there, I think most people looked at the offensive line as the strength of the team going into the season. In those situations, do you want to put more of a burden on them in the red zone, or do you still feel that with your offense, maybe you're best suited for?
The red zone is more of it's really when you get down there, it's so game plan centric. Teams are really dictating down there what you do. Are they laying off in coverage? Are there 8 or 9 guys on the line of scrimmage? I mean, you're in a short field, right? And so it's so game plan oriented down there in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so it really requires all players to be functioning together. And that's the real point of this relative to efficiency down there. You can't just rely on your offensive line because they may not be able to block everybody. A back may have to run through a tackle or two. A quarterback may have to be on time to hit the corner route and be precision, and precise with that throw and be on time. So it's really about the unit playing well down there, more so than the unit being all 11, more so than one group of players.
Thank you.
Brian, it was mentioned right over here.
Yeah.
It was mentioned earlier you've seen Pat's Michigan State defenses before. I'm just wondering, now that he's got a coordinator working under him, are there any small adjustments or pretty much same old thing that you saw from Michigan State?
The blueprint is certainly Coach Narduzzi's blueprint of Michigan State. Certainly there's a tweak here or there, and he's aware of his personnel and Michigan State's personnel. And, he had I think he had some draft picks at corner that were in the first round. Not to slight the corners that he had, but he had some really great corners at Michigan State. So they do some things differently, but the blueprint is pretty much the same.
And then sort of going off that, just how do you assess your group of receivers and their ability to win those battles on the outside that in the past against his defenses have proven so critical?
Well, I like our guys, and I like what they can do, and but we'll have to do more than just rely on our receivers. Our offensive line is going to have to play a major role in what we do, and our running backs. Quarterbacks are going to have to make great decisions. It's one thing to say, well, Will's faster and he can run by guys, but you got to protect. And they're hoping that they're going to hit the call and pressure when we want to get the ball to Will, and you got to be accurate. So there's a lot of things in there. We have to play well as an entire unit against a very aggressive defense.
Ryan, the pairings coming out, going back to the pairings coming out tonight, how much, do you think about how much help you might need, or do you just concentrate on what's in front of you and what your team can do, or how much thought goes into any of that?
Yeah, we won't think much about it at all, other than talking about what we need to do and what we need to do better as a football team. There's a lot of areas within each group that we felt like after the Temple game that we've got to focus all of our time and energy on if we want to be in this conversation next week and then the week after. So our goal is to be in this conversation into December. And the only way we can do that is if we clean up some of the things from the Temple game, and that's how I've addressed it to our team.
And to piggyback off that, what are your thoughts on this system compared to the old way of determining who would go to the national championship game? And
I think it's a better way of doing things, certainly. I think it's a good start for where we are right now in terms of determining who the 4 teams are. It seemed to be successful last year. I think in the first poll, Ohio State was 16th and ended up getting in there. So I think everybody would look at it as, hey, you got a chance, even if you're in the top 20, to get in. And so I don't know that many people would have too much of a problem where the system is right now. We'll see what happens in December.
And one more question. You kind of assessed Deshaun's, flapping as unacceptable. What about, have you had a chance to look at, the tape that everybody's seen of you and in the confrontation on the sideline, and was that, in hindsight, something that you regret or you don't care about, or what's your take?
No. I think I've already talked about this a couple of times. First of all, I'm responsible for the sideline, and our sideline was not where it needed to be. There were some things going on the sideline that were unacceptable, and it falls on my shoulders. If we were to get a penalty in that time of the game, it would have fell on me as being somebody that can't control the sideline. So moving forward, we've made some changes to how we're going to do things on the sideline and how we'll have a better sideline situation. Having said that, I wish the situation never occurred. I regret that it happened. David and I have met. We have met about the situation, and we've moved past it. Dave's a valuable employee, and he is a guy that does a great job here, and he'll be with us a long time.
Thank you.
Coach, over here on your left, you talk a lot about playing championship football. I just kind of wondered or interested, as far as the defensive line goes, where you kind of see them on that spectrum at this point in the season, and if there are any improvements where you would look to see.
Well, I think what we're still trying to get, Sheldon Day is playing off the charts. I mean, he had I don't know if he's getting enough credit for the way he's playing. Just an incredible game in terms of run stopping, pressuring the quarterback, all those things. We're trying to get some more play. You saw Andrew Trumbetti playing a little bit more. We're trying to get some more play out of that defensive end position and get guys in the game there. I think we're trying to see a little bit more third down package where we can get some more edge pressures. I like really where we are inside right now with, again, what Sheldon's doing, Daniel Cage, Jerry Tillery, Romeo's doing a nice job. But we need a little bit more presence on that end position, and I think that that's the focus right now.
And as far as adding Keith Gilmore at the beginning of the season, what has he done to help that group this year?
I think he's really just brought all those guys closer together. There's one heartbeat in that room. It's led by Sheldon, but he's a great facilitator. He's a great teacher. Just brings a great sense of everybody's rowing in the right direction in that room, and it's a very positive situation for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan Centerfield here. Pittsburgh is a very much a ball control offense, and while they don't do it in the same way that a Navy or a Georgia Tech does, they certainly limit the possessions in a game. Do you have to approach this game in the same way that you would those option teams, where you realize possessions are valued?
Yeah, I mean, there are some similarities there, and I think that goes back to the question that was asked about their defense. And, they don't mind you taking some shots down the field, from a percentage standpoint. They're thinking that, that's going to come back in their direction relative to completion percentage. And it's a lower completion percentage, and it gets you off the field. And the way they play, they eat up a lot of clock, and they keep offenses off the field. They did a very good job of keeping a very explosive North Carolina field off the field last week. And so that is definitely part of their game plan.
How about Peterman and the progression that he has made this year as a quarterback? He's been very protective of the football as of late.
He's taking the football, takes care of the football, can throw it, makes good decisions. He's athletic. He's got escapability. I thought he played very well last week. They had to come from behind, and when he was asked to throw the ball, I think he threw it over 40 times last week, and that's something that's not common for a Pittsburgh football team this year. He threw it very effectively.
And then Boyd, not only very effective as a receiver, but in the return game, do you try to kick it away from him?
Well, we've been presented with similar situations this year with dynamic return men, so we have everything in the plan for a guy like him. He is dynamic. He can run the ball as well on offense. They're using him at the running back position, wide receiver. He's a game wrecker, so we're aware of him in special teams as well as an offensive player.
Staying on special teams, evaluate Tyler right now. Is he doing something different? Because he doesn't seem to be as consistent in his productivity in kicking the football.
Yeah, he was really good against USC, as you know. He was really good the week before. He was off mechanically. We watched the film. His drop was off. I think what we learned from that in particular was that he's got to make those game day adjustments. If his drop is off, the drop of the ball for his punting mechanics, he's got to be able to make those in-game adjustments, and that's the maturation of a young kid and a punter, and that's what he'll do moving forward.
Thank you.